What's up, guys? Old Head Mike here, Metalcore Mommy Montana. Welcome to our review for the 2020 version of The Witches.
Sorry that you get attacked by a werewolf when you enter the door.
Alright, so this just came out today on HBO Max. We watched the original one last night, really just a few hours before this one came out. She had never seen it before. I grew up on it as a kid, and the original scared the shit out of me as a kid. I haven't watched it in a long time, so we were like, well, go ahead and watch the original before we watch the new one, just to get a little comparison here. And I'd say we thought this one, I think this one was pretty good, decent, you know. What do you think?
I didn't think it was bad. It was a little corny at times.
But it is, you know, it's a kid's movie.
Yeah, it was definitely, it felt more like a kid's movie this time, because he told me that I've like never even heard of this movie or anything. Like, tonight was the first night like I've ever heard of it, and he said it was a kid's movie, so I was thinking like a little spooky. But I felt like the older one was more of like a spooky movie rather than a kid's one, and this one felt a lot more like a kid's movie, but with like spooky aspects. It felt like how it was supposed to be the first time.
Yeah. All right, so now we won't give you any spoilers because there's one does end a little bit different than the other one. Not too different, but just the way it gets there is a little different. So this one was directed by Robert Zemeckis, whatever. He's pretty legendary, you know. He's done Back to the Future, Castaway, Forrest Gump, Polar Express, a ton of other movies, you know, huge, massive movies. Yeah. You know, he's done several kids movies that are pretty big as well. And also, this was also, the screenplay was written by him and Guillermo del Toro. I didn't know that until I was watching it, and I saw it on the credits, so I thought that was pretty cool. So I wonder if maybe he had a hand in some of the little horror aspects that they had in here, because the witches are pretty terrifying. I'd say in the first one, they were more gross out scary, like real, like just you know, gross looking. And in this one, they actually had like some pretty terrifying features. You know, if you've seen the screenshot of the face with the mouth, you know, reminiscent of Fright Night, which was awesome effects in that. So this one is CGI.
I don't think it looks bad when it's far away, but when you're up close in her face and there's like intense moments, all I could do was like stare at the teeth. Like I really didn't like how the mouth looked, like literally only when it was like full panel, like her face. But like, I don't know, that was probably just me being bugged by CGI.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a thing that can't really get away from these days. CGI is just so much easier to do, I guess. You would think it's not, because, you know, practical effects is just, you know, you just make a little something and that's it. But everything is based around computers now, so it's easy to just hop on there. You know, it's just the way the world is right now. I will say the CGI doesn't take too much away from the movie. The CGI, there's a few moments where the CGI is like, you know, but then I'd say the majority though, like the mice for the most part are well done. There's a whole bunch of other effects that are like really well done. Like there's this chicken that's completely CGI, the cat is completely CGI, but really, if you're not really looking, like, they look pretty real.
It feels like a Charlotte's Web type vibe, like how that movie shot with the animals and stuff. It's really like smooth.
So while I say that the CGI actually looks really good, it still doesn't have the same effect as the practical effects in the first one, because the first one was done by the Jim Henson Company, you know, Labyrinth, all that stuff. So the effects of the mice, you know, when they're like, because they use real mice in the first one, you know, you see them running around, and then when they would talk, it would pan over and it would be like these little puppets, but they were like really realistic looking and just really cool looking. They looked awesome. And so you don't really get that here. You just get typical kids movie CGI mice running around. But again, it's not terrible. It's just the original was so great with the effects that you kind of miss that. But on its own, it still does great. So, quit talking about the CGI for 10 minutes. So the story is pretty much exactly the same as the first one.
Except it's kind of like really over-explained. I don't know if it's over-explained or if it's just the fact that like all the little details that you like the questions you come up with after you watch the first one that like you never got answers to basically like completely get talked out, you know? Like everything we asked each other after we watched the first one was like talked through and like explained, you know what I mean?
Like what?
Like when you were like, oh, I wonder like how the grandma knew the headmaster witch.
Yeah.
And then I googled it, but like in the second one we find out like in detail because the grandma talks about it.
So it goes in more depth in a good way, is what you're saying.
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it's like, come on, let me walk through it, you know.
So yeah, it's pretty much the same story. This kid, his parents get into an accident. Grandmother takes him in, and they run into a witch. They try to go away, so they go to this little hotel, and turns out there's a witch convention there by chance, and witches try to turn all the kids into mice. That's how it plays out, pretty much exactly like the original. But there are some differences. Okay, first, I will say that the narration is a lot better in this one. I liked it more. In the first one, it starts off with the grandmother talking to the kid about witches, which, by the way, in the original, it's like 10 minutes of this lady talking about witches. And you're kind of like, okay, I get it. I get it about the witches. And in this one, it's Chris Rock does the narration here as the kid grown up. And he talks maybe like a minute about witches, the whole witches are real, witches are here, and that, and then just goes on to talk about him and his family. The rest of it, from the original that the grandmother talks about the witches, gets more explained, and broken up throughout the first like 30 minutes of the movie, which I appreciated more, because again, in the first, when she's talking about the witches, it goes on forever, and in this one you just get more story, I think, and it just worked out better and was paced a little bit more. Another part about this that I thought was better was you get to see the kid bond more with his parents, and you don't really see him bond with the parents, but you see the accident and you see the ramifications of the accident and how it affected him.
Yeah, you feel for him a lot more than
you get a lot of emotion from this kid. He did a great job. And in the original, his parents get into an accident and it's just another day. Next day, and he's just playing with his toys. Yeah. You do get to see the grandmother in the original get she has a crying scene, but that's it. You just move on and then done. In this one, it spends a couple minutes, and you just get more emotion from it. So I appreciated that on this one a lot more as well. I thought the music was done really well in this. Like the score was just felt a lot more present, and like you just noticed the music a lot more. I just was a great score. Just worked really well, tied in well with the movie as it was going. The transformation into mice, we'll talk about that for a second.
Oh my god,
she did not like it.
It was I really whatever.
So okay, so in the original, again, this has to do with the practical effects. In the original, you get to see the kid start transforming. It spends like a good 20 seconds of convulsing and turning and it's like real gross looking crazy stuff, which is part of what made it terrifying. In this one, it's more, again, it's just kind of CGI, and it's more of like a magic poof. It's just like poof, mouse. When you're watching it back to back with the original, you're just like, you kind of miss out on a whole scene right there.
Yeah, I definitely felt like the way they did the transformation stuff was like really lazy, honestly. I don't know, just in comparison, because they obviously can do cool stuff with the mouth and everything else, so it's like, why do we only get to see one of the mouse transformations, because we see
most of them. most of the mouse transformations
They're
here,
covered-
it's just the big poof.
Yeah, it's a poof, and they're
Inside
covered in
their
a cloak.
clothes, yeah.
And I didn't get why they get like thrown up in the air. Like they get
Yeah, they just like, it's just like poof, and they like this magic
like
blast
rockets.
like throws them up in the air, and then they turn into a mouse. I guess it's just to make it more like whimsical, maybe. I guess kind of like a kids movie.
Yeah, that's probably this is like exactly one of the
makes it
reasons
more
why
fun,
it
I
feels
guess.
more of a kids movie, just because
Yeah.
of how like toned down everything is compared to like what it could be. For a 2020 remake of like an already scary film, it's toned down.
Again, the witches. So the witches, I guess I already kind of mentioned this, but they're still really creepy here. Again, when you see in the original, the main head witch, the Grand Witch, when you see her take off all her stuff, she's this real nasty looking, gross, just beast type thing. And in this one, she's just, she just has the mouth thing. Really, but she has a little bit more magic powers than the rest. You get to see more of that. But then, like, I don't know, she has this cool arm thing where she like elongates her arm, and it's really creepy.
Oh yeah, I really liked that scene in the vents.
Yeah.
That was like, I don't know, even if it was just for a second, it looked just like creepy in itself. The
Yeah.
way you could like see her like arms breaking as she like extended them out like towards.
Yeah, it was really creepy. That's another thing I like about this one more is you do get to spend more time with the Grand Witch, especially at the end, because in the original, they're all drink the soup, and the Grand Witch drinks the soup, and they all turn to rats, and then that's pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's not much.
You get a lot more here. Again, no spoilers. I won't tell you everything that happens, but you do get a longer experience with her, and it's more of like a final battle, which I thought was really cool too.
It was much more like appropriate for
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, it makes her more of like a villain than just another witch that just looks scarier than the others. Her personality is more scary.
Yeah, I wish we would have gotten to see, though, like the other witches looking scary too. We never really got a scene like, in the old movie, there's like a whole massive scene of like all the different witches like running after the kid and like chasing after him, attacking him and stuff.
Mhm.
And like the way they like
They're more the background.
they get it over with, like the kids, really really fast. And it felt like it wasn't like even a scene, it was just like one after the other.
Mhm.
I just wish we would have gotten to see like a giant like group scene of them all with like their teeth out and stuff. That would have been like really cool.
Yeah, they're just the other witches are kind of more in the background. I guess that's all I have written down. Yeah, so overall, I would say I still enjoyed it. I'd say it's definitely a watch, especially if you like the other one. If you haven't seen the other one, you don't have to watch the other one first or anything. You don't miss anything out, really. It's pretty much the same exact story. You get a little bit more story here, so a lot more appreciated there. You do have CGI, but it's, like I said, it's to be expected in 2020. But the CGI is still pretty good. You get some creepy faces, and still some funny parts because it's a kids movie. So overall, yeah. What would you rate it?
Probably like a 7. Honestly, I would say for people that haven't seen the older one, to watch this one first and then to go back and watch the older one, just because like you'll have more of an understanding of what like is going on in a whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's more story here.
Because like everything goes.
And it is. I haven't read the book, but supposedly this one is a little bit closer to the book that this is based on than the original. Again, so watch this one first, so you don't have to sit there and compare to the effects of the other one, and then you can go back and watch the original one.
Yeah, you'll probably have a lot more appreciation for how cool the effects are.
I'd say I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good, and Anne Hathaway did a pretty good job.
She did great. She's a I love her so much.
You kind of think when they first announced it, you didn't, because you didn't know the movie existed at all. But when I first heard of it and that they saw that they were remaking it and it was Anne Hathaway, I was like, I don't know, but I hadn't watched the movie in a long time. So then as we were watching the original last night and seeing the performance of Anjelica Huston and her accent and all that, I could really see Anne Hathaway coming in and doing it with her, like she can hit that over the top kind of performance that the original had, and she really did nail it. And the rest of the actors here, Octavia Spencer did great. The little kid, Jazeer Bruno, did a great job as the little kid. Chris Rock, again, great narration. Really felt connected more to the character because of Chris Rock. Did a great job, and he was funny, of course. But yeah, so 8 out of 10. HBO Max, definitely go watch it. It was a pretty good remake. I know there's so many freaking remakes these days, and I think this one did an okay job. So definitely watch it, and thanks for stopping by. Give us a like and subscribe real quick. I'm always doing all things horror and some metalcore reviews as well. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Old Head Mike signing off, reminding you, never too old for this. Someday, love will find you. Break those chains and bind you.